Hello everyone, Alexa Donne here. I am a traditionally published author whose debut novel came out in May of 2018, and today I want to talk a bit about post-debut life. What is it like being published? What was it like being traditionally published specifically, and do I have any regrets? Now, why am I making this video 6 months after my debut novel came out? Well, the honest truth is I've needed that time to decompress, to adjust to the new status quo of what it means to be a published author. And also, I was on deadline for my second book, and those deadlines were crazy stressful. I vlogged the whole thing. You can go and watch it if you want. And I only now feel like I've emerged from kind of that fog of the frankly bonkers year and a half between getting my book deal, my book coming out, and then completing my second book. It's been both a dream come true and a wild ride, and now I'm feeling nice and reflective at the end of the year 2018. So let's talk a bit about getting published and post-debut life. So first off, the question I get all the time, I got it leading up to my debut, I got it the week of my debut, calm down guys, and I've gotten it ever since, and it's, what does it feel like to be a published author? And it feels amazing. And it feels the same, and it feels different, but not really, and some days it feels like a giant letdown. There are a lot of feelings. I mean, generally speaking, you had a goal, you accomplished the goal, so you feel good about that. And it is surreal. Every time I walk into a bookstore and I see my book on the shelves, I'm like, huh, that's weird. Though, that comes with its own disappointments, because when you walk into the store and you don't see your book, it's a massive bummer, to be honest. Oh, real talk. And that's the thing. I'm published now, and there have been a lot of ups and a lot of downs. I try to constantly remind myself to be grateful, though, to be just humbled and happy that I accomplished the thing. Of course, I also have to be pragmatic and realistic because, well, it's not over. Now, some people, their goal might be to publish a single book, but my goal is to have a career, so the work isn't over, and you can't get complacent. What I want to stress is that, for me, having a book come out wasn't magic. It didn't magically transform my life. It definitely changed my life because now I'm juggling a full-time job as well as essentially my dream career, writing, but I'm doing them at the same time. So I'm a lot busier. My whole life essentially has become writing when I'm not at work, and even when I'm at my day job, often I'm preoccupied with writing and publishing. So my life has certainly changed, but not magic, because here's the reality, the thing for me, and every author's experience is going to be different, but I didn't break out or blow up or become famous when my book came out. I didn't actually expect any of that to happen. I kind of had more or less realistic expectations of like what my book was, what my publisher was, and what my publishing experience was likely to be. So first off, I wrote a YA sci-fi. YA sci-fi isn't really a breakout genre, and I also know that I like my writing, I enjoy it, and that I knew I would reach readers who enjoyed it as well, but I don't have kind of that universal mainstream appeal. I've really never been that writer. I wasn't that writer in fandom either. I was never the BNF in Harry Potter fandom, and so I don't mind that. Meaning I knew I was reaching a niche. I was super fortunate to be a lead title at my publisher, and I love my publisher. They did so much for me, and it's worth doing an entire video just talking about the experience of marketing with my publisher, what it meant to be a lead title, what it felt like to be a lead title. I still can't believe it half the time, frankly, because I went into this whole publishing thing expecting to get little to nothing. I was prepared to do all of my own marketing, to be kind of brushed aside and need to pick myself up and do my own stuff. And then my publisher, they met me at every single moment and opportunity. They did so much for me, and it essentially just augmented what I was then able to do myself. So no complaints about the marketing experience I had with my publisher. Now, I'm with a major publisher and a decently sized publisher, but not one of the big five. In fact, HMH is known for really kind of beautiful, literary, important books, and I don't really think I'm a beautiful, literary, important writer. But meaning, I knew going in I wasn't with a big five, and this wasn't going to be a bestseller. And I'm honestly glad I had those expectations, realistic expectations, that my goal was to sell well, not necessarily sell gangbusters, because most people simply don't sell gangbusters. So I had realistic expectations and then I didn't break out, and so thus my life wasn't magically transformed. I do know people, and you know people because you see them on social media, you follow them. Their lives really do seem to change overnight. They get some massive, massive book deal. They're a lead title as well, but with a much bigger publisher, and then their first week out, they're a New York Times bestseller. Their lives truly do change overnight. They still have to deal with all of kind of the pragmatic and harsh realities that I have, and they're also going to have a lot of the same highs and lows. But I'd say their lives do transform more magically than, say, my life. Because the reality of publishing is, your book comes out, yay, you have a book out, but most things don't really change. Most books don't sell that well. Most of us, if we're lucky, are going to be mid-list authors. So mid-list means, well, you sit in the middle of the list. You sell well, but not gangbusters, but you also don't fail. Mid-listers can have really strong and successful careers, they just don't break out. So they're not the household names that you know, they don't have massive fandoms, they're not bestsellers. So I'm actually happy to feel like I am mid-list, because to me, mid-list means I'm successful enough and I'm able to kind of take my career at a relatively slow and steady pace and kind of take it book to book and build over time. So that's the first good piece of news. I did not fail miserably. Yay! Because publishing is brutal, and some people, honestly, their books come out and they honestly don't sell well. And I hate to say that they fail. That's such a horrid thing to say. But in the eyes of their publisher, yes, they fail. A book can be a failure. So I didn't fail. Yay! But I'm explaining all of this to explain to you why, to me, I'm so excited to have a book out, but it's not like I changed. It's not like my life changed. I still feel more or less like the same person. And so not only do I feel like the same person and I didn't break out, but with doing okay but not gangbusters comes a lot of stuff. So I do want to talk a bit about some of the stuff that I've been struggling with. And I know I'm not alone. Most of my peers, most of my friends have also struggled with the same things in their debut years, and it's great to have them there as resources to talk to. We talk behind the scenes, but sometimes they're also great about sharing these things in their newsletters or blogs or in their own videos. And so I will share a bit of kind of my experiences. So I actually made a video during this whole process about jealousy in publishing. Well, it was apropos because I've dealt with tons of my own jealous feelings, because jealousy is a natural part of publishing. I mean, everything I said in that video. And so, yeah, I felt that even when you have great things happening for you. And I had so many great things happen to me in my debut year, and I continue to have some pretty cool things happen to me, but even so, you're always kind of angsting about the things that you don't have, the things that you see other people have. So let's talk a bit about some of my disappointments during my debut year. First of all, I was almost summarily ignored by the trades. So we all kind of dream about, oh, what if I get a starred review? Wow, what would that feel like to be validated by trade reviews in that way? And so what are the trade reviews? Trades are essentially industry publications. They're read by booksellers, librarians, teachers, and so on. And getting a positive review in the trades, and even better, getting a star, can actually make a big difference to your career. It can mean more orders of your book for bookstores. It can mean more orders of your book for libraries. It can get you on kind of honors lists and whatnot. It might get you more invites places. So one of the things that I definitely struggled with in my debut is feeling just ignored. And there are many moments during the process where you have the feeling of, if a tree falls in the woods and no one hears it, did it fall? So if my book is coming out and no one's talking about it, or no one reviews it, or I'm not on a single list, do I have a book coming out? Now, I have to be gracious and humble. For the most part, I didn't feel that way. But I do know authors, I have friends who feel that way all the time. They're not being buzzed about constantly. Their publishers aren't pushing them in marketing. But for me specifically, trades. Now I'm gonna tell you what I've discovered is it's always the one thing that you really wanted in your publishing experience that you don't get. As pragmatic and realistic as I was about my expectations for my publishing year, the one thing I secretly hoped for that I didn't really admit to other people, but I held in my heart, I really wanted to be well reviewed. By the trades, by industry professionals. I hoped for a star. I hoped for someone to say, great job with that book, Alexa. We think teens need this. Buy for library. I don't know. So it's a month out from my book coming out and I have no reviews. And I'm in a debut group with other 2018 debuts. Some of them got their reviews 3, 4, 5 months before their books came out. Many of them have 5, 6, 7 reviews from different trades, and I'm just going, is my book coming out? Do I have a book? Did I hallucinate? Maybe my book's not actually coming out because no one has reviewed it. So then, sigh of relief. I finally get my Kirkus review 1 month before my book comes out, and I dodged a bullet. Kirkus didn't hate it. I actually got a very nice and positive review from Kirkus. Yay! So then I was like, great, now I'm gonna get my trade reviews. More of them. I did not. So my book comes out. Yay! No more reviews. I wait. I have my deadlines for revision. I wait. A month after my book came out, so 2 months between reviews, Kirkus, I finally get another one. I can't even tell you now which one it was. The long story short is I only got a sum total of 3 trade reviews. There are more than 3 trades. It was honestly a huge letdown, but again, I have to be grateful. None of them were negative. I got pretty nice reviews from all 3 of the trades that reviewed it, but not being reviewed in trades early, certainly not getting a star, but generally not being reviewed by more of them likely did hurt my library sales specifically. And that's just a reality I have to sit with. And that was a bummer because libraries matter to me. I love libraries. Libraries were essential to me growing up, and so many of my friends are librarians. And I also know so many actual teens, TM, go to libraries, and I want nothing more than for actual teens to read my book. So that was a big disappointment for me during the publishing process, and it still kind of niggles at my soul a little because I see the cycle for other friends with books coming out, and darned if they don't get starred trade reviews months and months and months out, and it's just like that reminder, that bummer. That's just something that I thought was a normal part of the publishing process that just didn't happen for me. But you have to kind of shrug and go, oh well, and then again, I'm so grateful that the 3 I did get were positive. So that was definitely something that I just had to deal with. So the other thing I had to deal with as a debut that, I can finally talk about, I guess this is just kind of the True Confessions gripe video. So, when no one wants to blurb your book. Hi. So I also made a video during this whole publication process about blurbs and how authors get blurbs for their books. But now I can actually tell you about my experience, which was that nobody wanted to read my book to blurb it. Again, if a tree falls in the woods and no one hears it, did it fall? Do I even have a book coming out? It was honestly a huge bummer. You know, I reached out to people personally, people that I had relationships with, and they just didn't have time. In other cases, my editor and my agent reached out to people who just said no. In many cases, we didn't even get past their agents. But this is where you have to be thankful for your friends. I do have blurbs on my book, and that's because I have amazing friends. But this is the secret of the publishing industry, isn't it? Many, many times blurbs are by people you know, by your friends. So the wonderful Ellie Blake blurbed my book before my ARCs came out. Thank you, Ellie, I love you. And the wonderful Jessica Kloos was also able to read on a super tight deadline to get me a blurb for my final copies. I am so grateful and thankful to both of them for doing that for me. But true confessions of what it's like being a debut, for most of us, especially when you're not going to be a breakout, when you're not going to be a New York Times bestseller, when you don't have the right buzz, getting blurbs is like pulling teeth. Most people are probably going to say no. You might have people who read and don't like it. You're going to have people that you do have professional relationships with, but the timing just is bad. In my case, I was honestly really hurt by being crashed. So my book came out very quickly, 13 months from sale to release, and that didn't leave a lot of time for people to read for blurbs. Working authors always have their own deadlines, so that was definitely a disappointment that I had to kind of bear. But then you weigh for yourself, well, do blurbs really matter? Do they matter more to us than they really matter to anyone else? So that was definitely a thing. Speaking of things being things, another big kind of mood, a big experience in this whole thing that is definitely worth talking about, warning you about. The publishing industry, in particular YA, is very buzz focused. It's very next thing focused, and there is nothing more surreal than your book coming out, and then it's like you don't exist. I fared decently well. I'm not complaining about my book coming out and people reading it, and in fact, I'm feeling more than ever that people are continuing to discover my book and read it. I love it when you guys tag me on Twitter and on Instagram, when you comment on videos saying that you've read it. It warms my heart. But overall, the phenomenon is true. I checked with a couple other people, the ones of us who didn't break out and become bestsellers. It's really like you disappear, because as soon as your book comes out, it's the next thing. It's anticipated reads for the next season. It's the next hot thing. You know, people stopped talking about my sci-fi and started talking about the next sci-fi coming out. But I totally get it, because of course before I came out, another sci-fi came out. I was like, no, now you talk about me. So everything goes in cycles and in waves. And so you have to just kind of accept that and anticipate it. There's going to be a huge build up to your debut and your book coming out. Well, your book coming out at any point, any release, even post debut. And then it's just gonna fall off. And that's just kind of natural, but man, dealing with it is weird, because you're always having this cognitive dissonance and the imposter syndrome rears up where you're like, oh, I did a thing, but does it matter? It's just weird. So many feelings, and really that's the summary here. I have been having so many feelings for the last, well, 6 months post debut, but of course so many feelings in the year leading up to my debut. A year and a half of feelings, so many feelings and deadlines, so much going on. And I can talk about it kind of circumspectly now, because I feel like I'm on the other side. But when you're in it, it really sucks. Which brings me to another thing I just want to talk about. I just want to get meta about booktube. Whew. So another thing that was super strange to experience, I feel like my book doesn't exist on booktube. And I'm both happy about that, glad, because I'm slightly terrified of like, all, you know, people posting rant reviews and whatnot about it, but it's also kind of a bummer, because I feel like this is part of my space and I feel like I'm part of the community, but I also joined the community really AuthorTube kind of later. So yeah, my book hasn't really been on booktube, and it's been kind of cognitive dissonance of being here, making videos, watching videos as a viewer. I just watch booktube as a viewer, and never seeing my book. With some exceptions, and it's so amazing when I have seen it featured on certain booktube channels, and then I love those creators and I'm like, you're cool, let's be friends. But generally it's another part of the feeling of like, if a tree falls in the woods. It's so easy to kind of be tortured by absence, by going places where you seek out bookish information and just not seeing yourself. I don't even know what my point is here, except to tell you that yes, I have torturously clicked on so many hauls and TBRs and monthly wrap-ups on all my favorite channels and been like, they don't even know I exist. It's especially torturous when they haul or review a book that's really similar to yours and you're like, read my book. Author feelings. But actually, I do want to talk a bit about buzz. Probably the biggest lesson, and again, I kind of knew it going in, but you don't really know it until you go through it. But it's a thing I want to warn you all about, and that is most buzz is manufactured. Buzz is manufactured, it's cyclical as I mentioned, and the key is, and the hard part is, to try to not let it get to you too much. And honestly, buzz can be worthless. A book can be heavily buzzed and then it comes out and nobody actually reads it. So the thing that is important to focus on, and it's what I have focused on, and I think it's what's gotten me through, where now I'm like, you know, you had your feelings, you had your jealousy, you had your imposter syndrome, you had your cognitive dissonance where you weren't sure if your book actually came out. I have real readers. And that is something I am super, super grateful for. So when I have seen my book on booktube, it's like, oh, that was organic. It wasn't manufactured buzz. That person wasn't even sent my book by my publisher. They bought it. How cool is that? Or when you see people tag you on Twitter, or they're doing an Instagram, a bookstagram, especially a bookstagram 6 months after my book came out. Every time I'm like, that is so cool. Because that's organic. That is a real person who bought my book, who read it, who hopefully liked it. And there's nothing better than that, because at the end of the day, that's why we write books and that's why we want to be published. We want actual readers to pick them up and read them and hopefully enjoy them. And so that is the graciousness and the humility that I am taking with me into the new year, past my debut year, because I am no longer a debut. I'm just an author. I know there are going to be a lot more feelings to come because I'm already sensing, our debut culture is truly bonkers. I benefited from it in my debut year, but when my next book comes out, I will no longer be a debut. I'm going to be competing with career authors and bestsellers and people much bigger than me, and debuts with lots of buzz. So I know it's going to be harder than ever to kind of get eyes on my book, to have, well, organic buzz, because my publisher may no longer be doing kind of big pushes for me. I don't know what's to come with book 2 because I'm no longer a debut, and that's both exciting and scary. So that's what I wanted to share with you, that it's amazing to have a book out. It's really cool. I love being a writer. I feel like a proper author, but there are lots of ups and downs to it. It's rarely magic, and that's in fact why I like kind of sharing this stuff with you and being as transparent as possible, because most of us don't become breakouts and don't become bestsellers and don't have wacky Cinderella journeys. We get to be Cinderella for a little while. I think every publishing experience is a little bit like a fairy tale, but then we gotta come back down to earth and, I don't know, scrub the floor? And do I have any regrets with going with traditional publishing? Do you watch this channel? You know I don't. I have zero regrets. I've enjoyed every single step of the process, even the parts that were pretty torturous, because this is what I wanted. This is my dream. And again, every time I go into a bookstore and my book is there, I'm grateful, I'm thankful. At a certain point, it's not going to be on the shelves anymore, because that's another part of the natural life cycle of being published. Books only stay on the shelves for so long, and so that's another big question mark for me. When do bookstores start waiting my title? Keep buying, guys. Yeah, it's still all worth it. And I've got another one coming. I'm so proud of my next book. I like it more than my debut. Everything just feels like it's onward and upward from here. I am remaining optimistic. So that's it. A little overview of post-debut life, some of the kind of bummers that I experienced. There are more, but those are some of the fun ones I thought I would share. And that's the thing, when you're in the moment, especially immediately post-debut, I mean, the first 2 months after your book comes out, you feel down more than you feel up. And then you feel like such a jerk when people talk to you and they're asking you, what's it like being published? And you're frowning and you're such a Debbie Downer because you're like, I'm not on any lists anymore and like my sales are only okay. And then you're like, oh man, I'm the worst. But yeah, I'm feeling really good, kind of being 6 months out. I'm excited for the future, and I'm also happy that I get to share this with you. It's really why I started my channel. I started my channel the month after I sold my book because I wanted to document the entire process. And part of the process is after. And after chapter isn't half bad, though it's not all sunshine and roses. So let me know down below in the comments if you have any questions or thoughts about this. If you've been published yourself, what were some of kind of the letdowns you experienced, or even pleasant surprises? Give this video a thumbs up if you like it, and I will make more super transparent behind the scenes videos about my publishing experiences. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. I post new videos 2 to 3 times a week. Thank you so much for watching, and as always guys, happy writing.